I don't know when it started. The looking. I told myself I was just observing, just noticing. She was beautiful, anyone would look. But I couldn't stop. And the worst part, I had no idea what she was thinking. She gave me nothing. No smiles, no acknowledgement, nothing. So why couldn't I stop staring at her? Hey, beautiful. Welcome back. I hope you're doing okay today. I hope you're being kind to yourself. Welcome back to part 2 of My Best Friend's Sister. And this is where Cassie starts to realize that whatever she's feeling, she can't control it anymore. Let's go. I didn't sleep well Saturday night. I kept waking up, my mind racing, replaying the party. The way Mirable had looked at me from across the room. The way my entire body had reacted to a single glance. By the time the sun started filtering through the guest room window, I'd given up on sleep entirely. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of what I was feeling. It was just attraction, I told myself. Physical attraction. Anyone would be affected by someone that beautiful. It didn't mean anything. I had a boyfriend. I was straight. This was just nothing. I kept repeating it like a mantra. Around 8:30, I finally got up, showered, and got dressed in comfortable clothes for the flight home. Jeans, a sweater, sneakers. I packed my bag slowly, carefully folding the black dress I'd worn to the party, and tried not to think about the fact that I'd be leaving soon. Leaving this house. Leaving her. I shook my head, annoyed at myself. Why did that thought make my chest feel tight? When I went downstairs, the house was quieter than it had been all weekend. The caterers were gone, the flowers were still there, but the tables and chairs had been removed. It looked like a normal house again. Well, a normal multi-million-dollar architectural masterpiece. Mrs. Voss was in the kitchen, looking surprisingly awake and put together for someone who'd hosted a massive party the night before. "Good morning, Cassie," she said warmly. "Did you sleep well?" "I did, thank you," I lied. "There's coffee, and I'm making pancakes. Tasha should be down eventually." I poured myself coffee and sat at the island, watching Mrs. Voss move around the kitchen with easy grace. Alex came in a few minutes later, looking slightly hungover but cheerful. "Morning," he mumbled, heading straight for the coffee. "Late night?" Mrs. Voss asked, amused. "I'm never drinking champagne again," Alex groaned. I smiled, sipping my coffee, and then Mirable walked in. She was wearing fitted black jeans and an oversized cream sweater that hung off one shoulder. Her hair was pulled back in a low ponytail. No makeup. She looked effortless, devastating. She walked to the coffee pot without saying anything, poured herself a cup, and leaned against the counter. She didn't look at me, not once. "Good morning, sweetheart," Mrs. Voss said to Mirable. "How did you sleep?" "I did, Mom," Mirable said, her voice still low and smooth even in the morning. "What time do Tasha and her friend need to be at the airport?" "Their flight's at 1, Mrs. Voss said, "so they should leave here by 10:30 to be safe." Mirable glanced at the clock on the wall. It was almost 9. "I can drive them," she said simply. Alex looked up. "You sure? I can do it." "You look like you're about to pass out," Mirable said dryly. "I'll take them." Mrs. Voss smiled. "That's very sweet of you, Mirable. Thank you." Mirable just nodded, sipping her coffee. I sat there, gripping my mug a little too tightly, trying to process the fact that I was going to be in a car with her for over an hour. Mr. Voss came in then, dressed casually, already looking through his phone. "Morning, everyone." Tasha finally stumbled downstairs around 9:30, looking half asleep and grumpy. "Why is everyone so loud?" she groaned. "Because it's almost 10, Tasha," Alex said, grinning. We all gathered around the kitchen island. Mrs. Voss served pancakes, fruit, and more coffee. It was warm and easy, the kind of family breakfast I'd always imagined but never had as an only child. I tried to focus on the food, but I was hyper-aware of Mirable sitting across from me, quiet, barely contributing, just listening. Tasha was halfway through her second pancake when she suddenly turned to Mirable. "So, I'm still coming to stay with you next weekend, right?" Mirable raised an eyebrow, setting down her coffee. "Tasha, you just saw me this entire weekend. There's no need to come again so soon." "You keep saying that," Tasha said, exasperated. "Every time I want to come for a weekend, you tell me you're busy, and then you just bribe me with money so I'll stop asking." Alex snorted into his coffee. "She's not wrong." Mirable gave him a look, but said nothing. Mrs. Voss smiled gently, reaching over to pat Tasha's hand. "Your sister works very hard, sweetheart. Her schedule is demanding." "I know," Tasha said, "but I haven't even seen her apartment yet. She's been living there for over a year." Mr. Voss looked at Mirable, amused. "You've been dodging her, Mirable." Mirable sighed, leaning back against the counter. I'm not dodging, I'm just busy. See? Tasha gestured dramatically. Mrs. Voss turned to me then, her expression soft. Cassie, you're an only child, yes? I nodded. I am. Then you understand, Mrs. Voss said warmly. Growing up without siblings can be lonely. Tasha needs her sister. And honestly, Cassie, you could use a sister too. You should go with Tasha. It'll be good for both of you. I blinked, surprised. Oh no, it's okay. I don't want to intrude. It's sister bonding time. You wouldn't be intruding, Mrs. Voss insisted. Tasha grinned, turning to me. We were actually planning to go together. I just needed to confirm with Mirable first. Mirable's eyes shifted to Tasha, her expression unreadable. So, Mirable said slowly, her voice calm but carrying a slight edge. You were planning to come for the weekend with your friend, and you didn't think to mention it to me. Tasha didn't even flinch. For all the times you've been too busy to see me, have I complained? Alex let out a low whistle. She's got you there, Mir. Mirable stared at Tasha for a long moment, her face giving away nothing. Then she shook her head, just barely, and glanced at the clock on the wall. If you still want to catch your flight, you need to be ready in 20 minutes. Tasha's face lit up. Wait, does that mean? It means, Mirable said, picking up her coffee, that you need to get moving, young lady. Tasha squealed and jumped up from her seat. You're the best. I'm serious, Tasha, 20 minutes. I sat there, my coffee cup frozen halfway to my lips, my mind racing. I was going to Mirable's apartment, next weekend. Mirable didn't look at me, she just sipped her coffee, her expression calm, unbothered. I couldn't tell what she was thinking, I never could. 20 minutes later, Tasha and I had our bags packed and were standing in the foyer, saying goodbye to Mr. and Mrs. Voss. Mrs. Voss hugged me tightly. I'm so glad you're going with Tasha next weekend. Mirable's apartment is beautiful. You'll love the city. Thank you so much for everything, I said, meaning it. Mr. Voss shook my hand. Safe travels, Cassie. Alex gave Tasha a hug and ruffled her hair, which she immediately swatted away. Try not to annoy Mirable too much next weekend. No promises, Tasha said, grinning. And then Mirable appeared, keys in hand. Ready? She asked, not looking at me. Tasha grabbed her bag. Let's go. Mirable's car was sleek and black, an expensive SUV that smelled like leather and that faint, intoxicating scent of jasmine and vanilla. Tasha immediately claimed the front seat, tossing her bag in the back and buckling in, which left me in the back, directly behind Mirable. I climbed in, settling into the seat, and put my seatbelt on. Mirable adjusted the rearview mirror briefly, her eyes never meeting mine, and then started the car. For the first 20 minutes, Tasha talked non-stop. She talked about classes, about a professor she hated, about a paper she had due next week. Mirable responded occasionally, short hums of acknowledgement, a quiet, a brief comment here and there. I sat in the back, looking out the window, trying to focus on the passing scenery, but I couldn't help it. My eyes drifted to the rearview mirror, to her. I don't know why I kept looking. I told myself I was just bored, just zoning out. But that wasn't true. I was looking at her hands on the steering wheel, the rings on her fingers, the way her jaw tensed slightly when she changed lanes, the way her hair caught the sunlight coming through the windshield. I watched the way she listened to Tasha, patient, calm, occasionally amused, and I couldn't stop. I glanced up at the mirror again. This time, her eyes flicked up. She caught me. For one brief, heart-stopping second, our eyes met in the reflection. Her expression didn't change. She didn't smile. She didn't raise an eyebrow. She didn't react at all. She just looked at me. And then she looked back at the road. My face went hot. I quickly looked down at my lap, my hands twisting together. Oh my God. She saw me. I forced myself to look out the window, to focus on anything else. But 10 minutes later, my eyes betrayed me again. I glanced up at the mirror. She was focused on the road. Her expression was calm, unreadable. I studied her profile. The sharp line of her jaw, the way her lips were slightly parted. I shouldn't be looking at her like this, but I couldn't stop. Another 10 minutes passed. Tasha was scrolling through her phone now, showing Mirable occasional memes. Mirable would glance at the screen, hum, and go back to driving. I looked at the mirror again, and again she caught me. This time, her eyes held mine for just a fraction longer. Still no reaction, no smile, no acknowledgement, just that steady, unreadable gaze. And then she looked away. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I was so lost in my own head, so consumed by the confusing, overwhelming feelings swirling in my chest, that I didn't even notice my phone ringing. It wasn't until I caught movement in my peripheral vision, my phone screen lighting up on the seat next to me, that I realized. I looked down. Nick calling. I stared at the screen, my heart sinking. I'd completely forgotten about him. I quickly grabbed the phone, but I didn't answer. Not right away. I just stared at his name on the screen. "Is that Nick?" Tasha asked, glancing back at me. I looked up, startled. Yeah. He's coming back to school today, right?" Tasha said. "He probably missed you." I nodded slowly. Probably. I should answer. I should be happy to hear from him. But I wasn't. Slowly, almost against my will, I lifted my eyes to the rearview mirror. And this time, Mirable was looking at me. It wasn't like before. This wasn't me catching her glancing. This wasn't an accident. She was looking at me. Directly. Deliberately. Her dark eyes were steady, focused, pinning me in place through the glass. Her expression was still calm, still unreadable. But there was something in her gaze, something I couldn't name, something that made my stomach drop and my skin go hot. The phone was still ringing in my hand, but I couldn't move. I couldn't look away. She held my gaze for one long, unbearable moment. And then, slowly, she looked back at the road. I sucked in a breath, my chest tight, and looked down at my phone. The call had gone to voicemail. I sat there, staring at the missed call notification, my hands shaking slightly. What the hell was that? What was I doing? Tasha turned around in her seat. "You didn't answer?" No, I'll call him back later," I said, my voice sounding far away. Tasha shrugged and went back to her phone. I locked my phone and put it in my bag. I didn't look at the mirror again for the rest of the drive. I couldn't. By the time we reached the airport, my entire body felt like it was vibrating. Mirable pulled up to the departures lane and put the car in park. Tasha unbuckled her seatbelt and turned around. "Thanks for the ride, Mir, and thanks for letting us come next weekend." Mirable said. Tasha got out and went to grab her bag from the trunk. I unbuckled my seatbelt, my hands fumbling slightly. I reached for the door handle, but before I could open it, Mirable spoke. "Cassie." I froze. It was the first time she'd said my name. I looked up, my eyes finding hers in the mirror. "Take care of yourself," she said, her voice low, smooth. I swallowed hard, my throat tight. "Thank you," I managed, my voice barely above a whisper. "For the ride too." She didn't respond. She just held my gaze for one more second, and then I got out of the car. Tasha and I walked into the airport, checked in, and made our way to the gate. The entire time, I felt like I was moving through water. Everything felt distant, muffled. "You okay?" Tasha asked as we sat at the gate waiting to board. "You've been really quiet." "Yeah," I said. "Just tired." She nodded, pulling out her phone. "I can't believe Mirable actually said yes to next weekend. She never says yes." I nodded, staring at the departures board. Next weekend. I was going to see her again. My stomach did a strange, anxious flip. We boarded the plane. I took the window seat, and Tasha fell asleep before we even took off. I stared out the window as the plane lifted into the sky, watching the city below get smaller and smaller. I pulled out my phone. There was a voicemail from Nick, and a text. "Nick, hey babe, tried calling. When do you land? Want me to pick you up?" I stared at the text. I should call him back. I should be excited to see him. But I wasn't. Me, landing at 3:30. "It's okay, I'll just take an Uber. See you tomorrow." I hit send before I could overthink it. He responded immediately. "Nick, okay. Miss you. Love you." I locked my phone and put it in my bag. I leaned my head against the window and closed my eyes. But all I could see was dark eyes in a rearview mirror. Looking at me. Finally looking at me. And I knew, with a sinking, terrifying certainty, that I was in trouble. I got back to my apartment Sunday evening around 5. I dropped my bag by the door, kicked off my shoes, and just stood there in the quiet. My apartment felt smaller than I remembered. The walls felt closer. Everything felt wrong. I walked to my bedroom and sat on the edge of my bed, staring at my phone. Nick had texted twice more while I was in the Uber. "Nick, just got back to my place. Want to come over tonight? Nick, or I can come to you. I missed you." I stared at the messages. I should want to see him. We'd been apart for 4 days. I should be excited. But I wasn't. I typed out a response. Me. I'm really tired from the trip. Can we do tomorrow instead? I hit send and immediately felt guilty. He responded within seconds. Nick. Of course. Get some rest. Love you. I stared at the words. Me. Love you too. I put my phone down and lay back on my bed, staring at the ceiling. I didn't love him. The thought came so suddenly, so clearly, that it knocked the breath out of me. I didn't love him. Not the way I should. Not the way he deserved. Maybe I never had. I didn't sleep well that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her. The hallway. The party. The car ride. That one moment when she'd looked at me. Really looked at me. While Nick's call went unanswered in my hand. I woke up Monday morning feeling exhausted and hollow. I had a morning seminar at 9. I dragged myself out of bed, showered, made coffee, and tried to pull myself together. When I got to campus, Tasha was already at our usual coffee shop, 2 cups waiting on the table. You look terrible, she said cheerfully as I sat down. Thanks, I muttered, taking the coffee. Didn't sleep? Not really. She studied me for a moment. You've been weird since we left my parents' house. Are you okay? I forced a smile. Yeah, just tired. The weekend was a lot. Tasha nodded, seeming to accept that. My family can be overwhelming, but they loved you. My mom texted me last night saying you're welcome anytime. That's really sweet, I said, and I meant it. And, Tasha said, grinning, we're still on for this weekend, right? Mirable actually confirmed this morning. She cleared her schedule. My stomach did a violent flip. She did? Yep, I'm shocked. She never clears her schedule for me. Tasha took a sip of her coffee. We're taking the train Friday afternoon. She said we can stay through Sunday. 2 whole days. At Mirable's apartment. I should make an excuse. I should say I have too much work, that I can't go. But instead, I heard myself say, yeah, I'm still in. Tasha beamed. Perfect. This is going to be so fun. After seminar, I had a few hours before my TA session. I went to the library to grade papers, but I couldn't focus. I kept thinking about the weekend. About seeing her again. My phone buzzed. Nick. Free for lunch? I hesitated. Me, I'm at the library, grading. Nick. I can bring you something? I sighed. Me. That's sweet, but I'm okay. I'll see you tonight? Nick. Sounds good. My place or yours? Me. Yours. Nick. Can't wait. Love you. I locked my phone without responding. That evening, I walked to Nick's apartment. He lived off campus in a modest 1-bedroom that always smelled faintly of coffee and laundry detergent. When he opened the door, he smiled, pulling me into a hug immediately. I missed you, he said into my hair. Missed you too, I said automatically. He pulled back and kissed me. It was soft, familiar, and I felt nothing. We went inside. He'd made pasta, nothing fancy, just spaghetti with marinara, but it was warm and comforting. We sat on his couch, eating and watching some show he liked. He told me about his weekend at his parents' house, how his dad was talking about retirement, how his mom kept asking when we were going to get engaged. I laughed at the right moments, nodded, made appropriate comments, but the whole time I felt like I was outside my own body. At one point he reached over and took my hand. You okay? He asked. You seem a little distracted. I looked at him, at his kind open face, his soft brown eyes. He was a good person. He loved me. And I was sitting here, holding his hand, thinking about someone else. I'm fine, I lied. Just tired. The weekend was a lot. Tasha's family seemed nice, he said, from what you told me. I'd texted him a few updates over the weekend, brief, surface-level things. They are, I said, really nice. Good. He squeezed my hand. I'm glad you had fun. I nodded. He leaned in and kissed me again. This time, longer. His hand moved to my waist, pulling me closer, and I let him. I kissed him back, trying to feel something, trying to convince myself that this was enough, that he was enough. But all I felt was guilt. After a few moments, I pulled away gently. I should probably go, I said softly. I have an early class tomorrow. He looked disappointed but nodded. Okay, I'll walk you out. At the door, he kissed me one more time. I love you, Cass. I looked up at him, at this man who had been steady and kind and safe for 3 years. I love you too, I whispered. And I hated myself for lying. I walked home in the dark, my hands shoved in my pockets, my breath misting in the cold air. I kept replaying the night, the way Nick had looked at me, the way he'd touched me, and the way I'd felt absolutely nothing. 3 years. We'd been together for 3 years, and one weekend, one encounter with a woman I barely knew, had shattered everything. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand how someone could look at you and change everything without saying a word. The rest of the week crawled by. I went to classes, graded papers, met with students, had dinner with Nick twice more, and every time I was with him, the distance grew. He started to notice. On Wednesday night, we were lying in his bed. He was half asleep, his arm draped over my waist, and he murmured, "Are we okay?" I stiffened. "What do you mean?" "I don't know. You just seem far away lately." I turned to face him, forcing a smile I didn't feel. "I'm just stressed about school, end of semester stuff." He searched my face for a moment, then nodded. "Okay, you'd tell me if something was wrong, right?" "Of course," I lied. He kissed my forehead and fell asleep. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, wide awake. By Friday morning, I was a mess. Tasha and I were supposed to take the 2 o'clock train to the city. I'd packed my bag the night before, but I kept second-guessing everything. What do you even wear to stay at someone's apartment when that someone makes your brain short-circuit just by existing? I settled on simple, comfortable clothes and tried not to overthink it. Nick texted around noon. "Nick, have fun this weekend. Text me when you get there." Me, "Will do. Nick, love you." I stared at the message. Me, "You too." I couldn't even type the words anymore. I met Tasha at the train station at 1:30. She was bouncing with excitement. "I can't believe she actually cleared her schedule," Tasha said as we boarded. "This is unheard of." We found our seats and Tasha immediately pulled out snacks and her phone. The train ride was just over 2 hours. Tasha talked the entire time, about her classes, about some drama in one of her group projects, about how excited she was to finally see Mirable's apartment. I nodded along, responding when appropriate, but my mind was elsewhere. I was going to see her again, in less than 2 hours. My hands were shaking. The train pulled into the station at 4:15. We grabbed our bags and stepped out onto the platform. The city was loud, bustling, alive with energy. Tasha pulled out her phone and texted Mirable. She said she's still at work, but she'll be home by 5. She gave me the code to get in. We took the subway to her neighborhood. It was a beautiful part of the city. Tree-lined streets, modern buildings, upscale shops and cafes. Mirable's building was sleek and elegant, with a doorman and a marble lobby. Tasha punched in the code, and we took the elevator up to the 8th floor. When we reached her door, Tasha hesitated. "She's really private about her space," Tasha said. "Like, I don't think she's ever had anyone over except family. So, just so you know." The apartment was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Minimalist furniture in soft greys and whites. Everything was clean, elegant, perfectly curated. It smelled like her. Jasmine and vanilla. I stood in the entryway, my bag in my hand, and felt completely out of place. Tasha dropped her bag on the couch and walked around, exploring. "Oh my God, this is so nice. Why does she never invite me here?" I barely heard her. I was staring at the space, at the life Mirable had built. Successful, independent, untouchable, and in a little under an hour she'd be here. My stomach twisted with nerves. At 4:55, I heard the sound of keys in the door. I was sitting on the couch, my hands folded in my lap, my heart racing. The door opened, and Mirable walked in. She was still in work clothes, tailored black trousers, a crisp white blouse, heels. Her hair was down, falling in soft waves. She looked effortlessly powerful. She set her bag and keys down on the entryway table and slipped off her heels. "Hey," Tasha said, getting up from the other side of the couch. "Your place is amazing." "Thanks," Mirable said, her voice low and calm. Her eyes flicked to me briefly, so briefly I almost missed it. "Make yourselves comfortable. I'm going to change." And then she disappeared down the hallway. I sat there, frozen, my pulse racing. Tasha flopped back down on the couch. "This is going to be such a good weekend." I nodded, but all I could think was, how am I going to survive this? Mirable disappeared down the hallway to change, and I sat on the couch, trying to regulate my breathing. Tasha was scrolling through her phone, completely unbothered. "I'm starving. I wonder what Mirable has planned for dinner." I nodded, not trusting my voice. A few minutes later, I heard footsteps. Mirable emerged from the hallway, and my breath caught. She'd changed out of her work clothes. Now she was wearing soft, fitted grey sweatpants and an oversized black crewneck sweater that hung slightly off one shoulder. Her hair was still down. No makeup. She looked softer, more human. Somehow that made it worse. She walked barefoot across the hardwood floor to the open kitchen. "Are you too hungry?" she asked, opening the fridge. "Starving," Tasha said. "What do you have?" Mirable glanced at the contents of her fridge. "Not much. I don't cook often. We can order in or I can make pasta." "Pasta sounds good," Tasha said. Mirable looked at me then, directly, for the first time since she'd walked in. "Cassie, is pasta okay with you?" Her voice was calm, polite, but hearing her say my name again made my stomach flip. "Yes," I managed. "That's perfect, thank you." She nodded and pulled out ingredients: fresh pasta, olive oil, garlic, cherry tomatoes, parmesan. "Do you need help?" Tasha asked, though she made no move to get up. "I'm fine," Mirable said. "You can pick something to watch if you want." Tasha immediately grabbed the remote and started scrolling through streaming options. I sat there, my hands folded in my lap, hyper-aware of every sound Mirable made in the kitchen. I couldn't help it. I watched her. The way she moved around the kitchen with quiet efficiency, the way she tied her hair back into a low bun, the way she chopped garlic with precise, confident movements. She looked completely at ease in her own space, comfortable, in control. At one point she reached up to grab a pan from a high shelf, and her sweater rode up slightly, exposing a sliver of skin at her waist. I looked away quickly, my face hot. "Stop it, Cassie. Stop." Tasha settled on some cooking competition show, half watching while scrolling on her phone. I could smell the garlic and olive oil heating in the pan. It smelled incredible. Mirable worked in silence. No music, no conversation, just the soft sounds of cooking. After a few minutes, she spoke. "Cassie." I looked up, startled. She was standing at the kitchen island, a bottle of red wine in one hand and 2 glasses in the other. "Do you drink wine?" she asked. "Oh, yes, sometimes." She poured 2 glasses and walked over, handing one to me. "Thank you," I said softly. Our fingers brushed as I took the glass. Just barely, just for a second, but I felt it everywhere. She didn't react. She just walked back to the kitchen, taking a sip of her own wine, and returned to the stove. Tasha didn't even look up. I sat there, holding the glass, my hand trembling slightly. 20 minutes later, Mirable brought 3 bowls of pasta to the coffee table. It looked simple but beautiful: fresh pasta tossed with garlic, olive oil, roasted cherry tomatoes, and shaved parmesan. We sat around the coffee table. Mirable took the armchair across from the couch. Tasha and I sat on the couch. "This looks amazing," Tasha said, immediately digging in. I took a bite. It was delicious. Simple but perfectly seasoned. "This is really good," I said quietly, looking at Mirable. She glanced at me, her expression calm. "Thank you." We ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes, the cooking show playing softly in the background. Then Tasha spoke. "So, Mir, how's work? Still soul-sucking?" Mirable's lips twitched, almost a smile. "It has its moments." "What do you do again?" Tasha asked. "I never actually understand when you explain it." "Corporate consulting," Mirable said, taking a sip of wine. "I help companies restructure." "That sounds boring," Tasha said bluntly. "It is," Mirable said, "but it pays well." Tasha laughed. "Fair." Mirable's eyes shifted to me. "What about you, Cassie? Tasha mentioned you're in a graduate program." My heart jumped. She was asking me a question, actually engaging. "Yes," I said, setting down my fork. "I'm studying English literature, 2nd year." "What's your focus?" "Modern American fiction," I said. "Specifically women writers." She nodded slowly, her dark eyes studying me. "Do you want to teach?" "I think so," I said. "Or maybe write. I'm not entirely sure yet." "That's honest," she said. There was something in her tone. Not judgment, but maybe respect? I didn't know how to respond, so I just nodded and took another sip of wine. Tasha jumped in then, launching into a story about one of her professors, and the moment passed. But I could still feel Mirable's gaze on me. After dinner, Tasha insisted on cleaning up, even though Mirable said she'd do it later. "You cooked, I'll clean. It's only fair," Tasha said, gathering the bowls. Mirable didn't argue. She just refilled her wine glass and settled back into the armchair, tucking her legs beneath her. I stayed on the couch, holding my wine, trying not to stare at her. Tasha was in the kitchen, humming to herself, running water in the sink, which left me and Mirable sitting in the living room, alone. The silence between us wasn't uncomfortable, but it was heavy. I could feel her presence like a physical weight in the room. I kept my eyes on the TV, pretending to watch the show. But I wasn't absorbing anything. Out of the corner of my eye, I could see her. The way she held her wine glass, the way her hand rested on the arm of the chair, the way her sweater had slipped further off her shoulder. I took a sip of wine, trying to calm my racing heart, and then she spoke. "How long have you and Tasha been friends?" I looked over at her. She was watching me, her expression calm, curious. "Since the beginning of the school year," I said. "We met in a seminar. We just clicked." She nodded. "She talks about you a lot." "She does?" "Mm-hmm. She says you keep her sane." I smiled despite myself. "She does the same for me." Mirable took a sip of her wine, her eyes still on me. "You're an only child." It wasn't a question. She already knew. "I am," I said. "That must have been lonely." I nodded slowly. "Sometimes. I always wanted siblings." "It's not always what it's cracked up to be," Mirable said, a faint smile tugging at her lips. I laughed softly. "Tasha said the same thing." "She would." There was a pause. Not awkward, just present. "You're close with your family," I said carefully. "In our own way," Mirable said. She looked down at her wine glass, swirling the liquid gently. "We're very different people, but we care about each other." I nodded. "What about you?" she asked, her eyes lifting to meet mine. "Are you close with your parents?" "Yes," I said. "They're supportive, maybe a little overbearing sometimes, but I know they love me." She nodded, and something shifted in her expression, softer, maybe. "That's good," she said quietly. Tasha came back into the living room then, drying her hands on a towel. "All done," she announced. "What are we watching?" "No idea," Mirable said, leaning back in her chair. "You picked it." Tasha rolled her eyes and flopped onto the couch next to me. The three of us sat there for the next hour, watching TV in comfortable silence. Tasha made occasional comments. Mirable responded with short hums or one-word answers. I barely spoke. I was too busy trying not to look at Mirable, and failing. Around 9:30, Tasha yawned. "I'm exhausted," she said, stretching. "I think I'm going to bed." Mirable glanced at her. "The guest room is ready. It's the second door on the left." "Thanks." Tasha stood and looked at me. "You coming?" "In a bit," I said. "I'm not that tired yet." "Okay, night, you two." She disappeared down the hallway, and a moment later, I heard a door close, and then it was just me and Mirable. I should have gone to bed. I should have followed Tasha, but I didn't. I stayed on the couch, holding my wine glass, my heart pounding. Mirable didn't move. She just sat there in the armchair, her legs tucked beneath her, her eyes on the TV. But I could feel the shift in the room, the awareness. I took a sip of wine. "Trying to stay up," Mirable said, her voice soft, not looking at me. "If you're tired." "I'm okay," I said quietly. She nodded. We sat in silence for another few minutes, and then she looked at me. It wasn't like the car. This was different. She wasn't catching me staring. She was choosing to look. Her dark eyes were steady, calm, unreadable as always, but there was something in her gaze, something that made my breath catch. "You're very quiet," she said. I swallowed hard. "I'm just observing." One corner of her mouth lifted, just barely. "Observing?" "Your apartment," I said quickly. "It's beautiful." "Thank you." She held my gaze for a moment longer, and then she looked away, taking a sip of her wine. I exhaled slowly, my hands shaking. A few more minutes passed. "I should probably go to bed," I said finally, standing. Mirable looked up at me. "The guest room is big enough for both of you. There's an ensuite bathroom. Towels are in the closet." "Thank you," I said, "for letting us stay." "Of course." I hesitated, then forced myself to walk toward the hallway. But before I reached it, she spoke again. "Cassie." I stopped, turning back. She was still sitting in the armchair, her wine glass in her hand, her eyes on me. "Sleep well," she said softly. My throat tightened. "You too," I whispered. And then I walked down the hallway and into the guest room. Tasha was already asleep, curled up on one side of the large bed. I changed into my pajamas quietly, brushed my teeth, and climbed into bed. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. I could still feel her eyes on me. I could still hear her voice saying my name. I pulled the blanket up to my chin and closed my eyes. But I knew I wasn't going to sleep. Not tonight. I didn't sleep. I lay in bed next to Tasha, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of the city outside. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Mirable, sitting on that couch, looking at me. Her voice sang my name. Sleep well. By the time the first pale light started creeping through the curtains, I gave up. I slipped out of bed quietly, careful not to wake Tasha, and padded to the ensuite bathroom. I splashed cold water on my face and stared at myself in the mirror. I looked exhausted. I changed into jeans and a sweater, brushed my teeth, and stepped into the hallway. The apartment was quiet, but I could hear movement in the living room. When I walked in, Mirable was there. But she wasn't relaxed like I'd imagined. She was standing by the kitchen island, fully dressed in tailored black trousers and a crisp white blouse, her hair pulled back into a sleek low bun. She was holding her phone to her ear, her expression tense. "I understand," she said into the phone, her voice clipped. "I'll be there in 30 minutes. She hung up and exhaled slowly, pinching the bridge of her nose. Then she looked up and saw me. Her expression softened, just slightly. "Good morning," she said. "Morning," I said quietly. "Is everything okay?" She set her phone down on the counter. "Something urgent came up at work. I have to go in." "Oh." I didn't know what else to say. She looked toward the hallway, then back at me. "Tasha's still sleeping." "Yeah." Mirable nodded, then walked toward me, stopping a few feet away. She looked apologetic, which was strange to see on someone so composed. "I really have to go," she said, "but I'll make it up to you both when I get back. I promise." "It's okay," I said quickly. "Work is work." She studied me for a moment, then smiled, just barely. "Can you help me explain to Tasha when she wakes up? She's going to be upset." "Of course. If you can convince her not to be pissed at me," Mirable said, and there was something almost playful in her tone now. "And not to complain. When I get back, whatever you want, I'll do for you." My breath caught. She was looking at me with those dark, steady eyes, and I felt my stomach flip. "Deal," I said, smiling despite myself. She picked up her bag and keys from the counter. "Thank you, Cassie." And then she was gone. I stood there in the quiet apartment, my heart racing. Whatever you want, I'll do for you. I wasn't going to ask her for anything, but the way she'd looked at me when she said it. I shook my head and went to make coffee. Tasha woke up around 10, shuffling into the living room looking rumpled and confused. "Where's Mirable?" she asked immediately. "Work emergency," I said, handing her a mug of coffee. "She had to go in. She said she'll make it up to us when she gets back." Tasha groaned. "Of course, she always does this." "She felt really bad," I said. "She asked me to convince you not to be mad at her." Tasha raised an eyebrow. "And?" I grinned. "She said if I can do that, she'll do whatever I want when she gets back." Tasha's eyes widened. "Wait, seriously?" "Yep. Cassie, you could ask her for anything. She's rich. Ask for a car. Ask for—" "I'm not going to ask her for anything," I said, laughing. "You're insane." I shrugged. "I just don't want you two to fight." Tasha shook her head amused. "You're too nice, but fine, I won't be pissed, this time." We spent the day exploring on our own. Tasha took me to a few vintage shops she'd found online. We grabbed lunch at a cute cafe and walked through a park. It was nice, easy, but I couldn't stop thinking about Mirable. She texted Tasha around 6. "Mirable, just finished. I'm taking you both to dinner tonight. Meet me downstairs at 7. Tasha showed me the text, grinning. "See? She feels guilty. This is going to be a nice dinner." We went back to the apartment, changed into something a little dressier, and headed downstairs at 7. Mirable was waiting outside the building, leaning against her car, scrolling through her phone. She'd changed too. Dark jeans, a black silk blouse, a long coat. She looked effortlessly stunning. When she saw us, she put her phone away. "Hey," she said. "I'm sorry about today." "It's fine," Tasha said, though she still looked a little pouty. Mirable smiled faintly and looked at me. "Did you manage to keep her from complaining?" "Barely," I said, smiling. "Good." She opened the car door. "Let's go." The restaurant was beautiful. Dim lighting, candles on every table, soft jazz playing in the background. We were seated at a corner table. Mirable ordered a bottle of wine, and we settled in. Tasha was still sulking a little, but Mirable was patient with her, asking her about the shops we'd visited, what we'd done. I mostly listened, sipping my wine, watching the way Mirable engaged with her sister. She was good at this, at making people feel heard. We'd just finished our appetizers when a woman approached our table. She was beautiful, mid-20s, blonde, confident, wearing a sleek black dress. She walked up to our table and smiled directly at Mirable. I'm so sorry to interrupt, the woman said, her voice warm, flirtatious. But I just had to come over and say you're absolutely stunning. Mirable looked up, her expression polite but neutral. Thank you. I was wondering, the woman continued, leaning in slightly, if I could get your number. My entire body went rigid. Mirable didn't even blink. She smiled, small, controlled, and said, You might have to ask my girlfriend. She didn't look at me. She didn't look at Tasha. She just looked at the woman, calm and unbothered. The woman's smile faltered. Oh, of course, sorry. She walked away, and I sat there, my hands clenched in my lap, my chest tight. Girlfriend. She had a girlfriend. Tasha snorted. Smooth. Mirable just took a sip of her wine, completely unfazed. I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. I was burning. Was it the word girlfriend that gutted me? Or the audacity of that woman approaching her? I didn't know. All I knew was that I wanted to throw something. After dinner, we walked to the parking lot. The air was cold, crisp. Mirable was a few steps ahead, unlocking the car, when a man approached. He was tall, handsome, well-dressed. He looked wealthy, confident. Excuse me, he said, smiling at Mirable. I know this is forward, but could I get your number? Mirable turned to face him, her expression graceful, composed. That's very kind, she said smoothly. But my wife wouldn't want me giving my number out tonight. Wife. The man nodded, looking disappointed but respectful. Fair enough. Have a good night. You too, Mirable said, and got into the car. I climbed into the back seat, my mind spinning. Wife. Girlfriend. Wife. She and her girlfriend are getting married? Tasha buckled her seatbelt and turned to Mirable. So, can I actually meet your girlfriend before we leave tomorrow? Mirable glanced at her, her expression serious. Why? Because, Tasha said, since you moved here, or since you broke up with Michelle, I haven't seen you with anyone. I'm starting to think you're making her up. Mirable smiled, a real soft smile. She's not in town right now, she said. Next time. Tasha rolled her eyes. You always say that. Mirable just started the car, and I sat in the back seat, staring out the window, my chest aching. She had someone. Of course she did. Someone like her, beautiful, successful, untouchable, wouldn't be single. And I had been sitting here, spiraling, feeling things I had no right to feel, when she was already taken. The jealousy twisted into something sharper. Anger. At her, at myself, at the entire situation. I barely spoke the rest of the night. When we got back to the apartment, I went straight to the guest room and changed into my pajamas. Tasha was already asleep within minutes, but I lay there, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. I kept replaying it. The woman at the restaurant, the man in the parking lot, the way Mirable had smiled when Tasha asked about her girlfriend. She's not in town. I felt like an idiot, a complete, utter idiot. The next morning, Sunday, we packed our bags quietly. Mirable made coffee and toast. We ate in near silence. Tasha was on her phone. Mirable was reading something on her laptop, and I just sat there, trying to hold myself together. At 11, Mirable drove us to the train station. The ride was quiet. Tasha dozed in the front seat. I stared out the window, willing myself not to cry. When we pulled up to the station, Tasha hopped out to grab the bags from the trunk. I unbuckled my seatbelt, but before I could get out, Mirable spoke. Cassie! I looked up. She was holding out her hand. Give me your phone. I blinked. What? Your phone, she repeated. I pulled it out of my pocket and handed it to her, confused. She unlocked it. I'd left it open and typed something quickly. Then she handed it back. I looked down. She'd added her contact. Mirable Voss. Text me if you need anything, she said, her voice quiet. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. Okay, I whispered. She held my gaze for one more moment. Then I got out of the car. Tasha and I boarded the train. We found our seats, and Tasha immediately fell asleep. I sat there, staring at my phone. At her name, her number. And then Tasha stirred, half awake, and mumbled, You know, Mirable never gives her number to people. I looked at her. What? Her number, Tasha said, yawning. She's super weird about it. I had a friend who liked her once, asked for her number. Mirable literally lied and said her phone was malfunctioning, while she was holding it. I stared at her. She always tells people no. Tasha closed her eyes again, drifting off. And I sat there, my hands shaking, staring at Mirable's name on my screen. She'd given me her number, voluntarily, without me asking. I locked my phone and leaned my head against the window. I didn't know what any of this meant, but I knew one thing for sure. I was in so much trouble. It had been 2 weeks since we came back to New York. 2 weeks of barely sleeping, barely eating, barely functioning. I couldn't stop thinking about her. Every time Nick touched me, I felt nothing. Every time he texted, I felt guilty. Every time he said he loved me, I wanted to disappear. I was avoiding him, making excuses, drowning in my own confusion. And then, on a Tuesday afternoon, everything shifted. I was sitting in my apartment, staring blankly at a stack of ungraded papers, when my phone rang. Tasha. I answered. Hey. Hey. Her voice was congested, raspy. So guess who's in town? My heart skipped. Who? Mirable. She came for some work meeting. She stopped by my place this morning. I sat up straighter, my pulse quickening. She's here? In the city? Yeah, she's leaving tomorrow afternoon, but she wanted to take us to dinner tonight. Except I have the worst flu of my life, so I can't leave my apartment. Oh, I'm sorry you're sick. It's fine, but Mirable said she'll come by tonight to check on me. You should come too. Just wear a mask or something. I hesitated, my mind racing. Mirable was here, in the same city, 20 minutes away. Have you given her your number? Did you text her? Tasha asked. I wanted to, I said quietly. I just didn't know what to say. She said to text if I needed something, so I figured I'd wait until I actually needed something. Tasha, girl, you are wasting an opportunity. Ask her for a car, a new laptop, something. The last time she disappointed me, when I was supposed to visit her that weekend, she bought me this phone. Tasha laughed, then coughed. I give you full permission to eat my sister's money. I laughed despite myself. Tasha, I'm serious. She's loaded and Ow, my head. Her voice dropped. I gotta go. I need to bury my head in a pillow and sleep. But come tonight if you can, okay? Okay, feel better. Thanks. She hung up. I sat there, staring at my phone, my heart pounding. Mirable was here. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed. Nick, can't wait to see you tonight. I'll be there around 6. I stared at the text. I'd completely forgotten. We'd made plans. Dinner at his place. I looked at the time. It was almost 4. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Me. Hey, can I rain check? I need to hand in these grading papers tomorrow and there's still a lot left. I hit send, guilt twisting in my stomach. He responded quickly. Nick. Again. I winced. Nick. Cassie, we haven't seen each other in almost a week. Me. I know. I'm sorry. I'm just really swamped. Nick. Okay. That was it. Just okay. I put my phone down and tried to focus on grading. But all I could think about was the possibility of seeing Mirable tonight. 2 hours later, there was a knock on my door. I frowned, setting down my pen and walked over. When I opened it, Nick was standing there. My stomach dropped. Nick, what are you? We need to talk, he said quietly. I stepped aside, and he came in. We sat on the couch. He didn't look at me at first. He just sat there, his hands folded, his jaw tight. What's going on, Cassie? He asked finally. What do you mean? You know what I mean. He turned to face me. You've been avoiding me for weeks. You barely respond to my texts. You cancel plans. You won't let me touch you. Nick, just tell me the truth. His voice cracked. Are you done with this? With us? I felt tears burn behind my eyes. I don't know, I whispered. He stared at me. You don't know? I don't know what's wrong with me, I said, my voice shaking. I can't explain it. Try. I looked down at my hands, my chest tight. There's someone else. The silence was deafening. Someone else, he repeated, his voice flat. I nodded. Who? I couldn't answer. Cassie, who is it? I took a shaky breath. A woman. He looked at me like I'd just slapped him. A woman, he said slowly. Yes. He stood up, pacing. You're into women now. I don't know what I am, I said, tears spilling over. I didn't plan this. I didn't want this. Who is she? I hesitated. Cassie. Tasha's sister. He froze. The one from Boston. I nodded. You met her once. I met her twice, I corrected, and realizing how unnecessary that was. You met her twice, and now you're leaving me for her. I'm not leaving you for her, I said, standing. She's not available. She has a girlfriend. This isn't about her. It's about me. Something's wrong with me, and I don't know how to fix it. So fix it, he said, his voice hard. If you don't want to feel this way, then get over it. I'm trying, I said, my voice breaking. I just need time. I've been giving you time, he shouted. And the more time I give you, the further you pull away. I flinched. He took a breath, his eyes red. Maybe you should just tell her how you feel. What? If you're this consumed by her, he said bitterly. Maybe you should just tell her, see what happens. Because clearly I'm not enough. Nick, please. I can't do this anymore, Cassie. He grabbed his jacket. I can't sit here and wait for you to figure out if you want me or not. I'm not asking you to wait. Then what are you asking? He looked at me, his eyes full of pain. Because I've loved you for 4 years. And you're telling me you're in love with someone you barely know. In love with a woman. I didn't have an answer. He walked to the door, paused, and looked back. When you figure out what you want, he said quietly, let me know. And then he left. I stood there, staring at the closed door, my entire body shaking. I'd just lost him. And for what? For someone I couldn't have. The walls of my apartment started closing in. I couldn't breathe. I grabbed my jacket and left. I ended up at a bar, a quiet place near campus. I sat at the bar and ordered a drink, then another, then another. I just wanted to stop feeling. By 11:30 I was drunk. I pulled out my phone, squinting at the screen. I should go home. But I couldn't get an Uber to work. My fingers weren't cooperating. I opened my messages. I meant to click on Tasha, but my eyes landed on Mirable's name. I stared at it. She didn't have my number saved. I'd have to identify myself. I shouldn't. But I was drunk and broken and desperate. I started typing. Me. Hi. It's Cassie, Tasha's friend. Can you please pick me up from a bar? I'm not getting a taxi. I hit send. Then I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. She wouldn't respond. It was late. She didn't. My phone buzzed. Mirable, where are you? I fumbled to drop my location pin and sent it. Mirable, stay there. I'm coming. I sat there clutching my phone, barely believing it. She was coming. For me. 15 minutes later, I saw her car pull up outside. I stumbled off the bar stool and walked toward the door. The cold air hit me, and I swayed. Mirable got out of the car. She was wearing dark jeans, a fitted black sweater, and a long coat. Her hair was down. She walked toward me, her expression unreadable. Cassie. Hi, I slurred. She looked at me, really looked at me, and something softened in her face. Come on, she said gently, reaching for my arm. I took a step, and my legs gave out. She caught me. Her hands were firm on my waist, steadying me. I've got you, she murmured. She guided me to the car and helped me into the passenger seat. I leaned my head back, the world spinning. She got in, buckled her seatbelt, and started the car. I fumbled with my phone and dropped my location pin in the chat. She glanced at it, and then ignored it. We started driving. After a few minutes, I realized we'd passed my street. I frowned. Wait, you passed my exit. Did I? She said calmly. I blinked, confused. We kept driving. Then we passed the turn to Tasha's apartment. You passed Tasha's street too, I mumbled. Tasha's sick, Mirable said. Let's let her rest. Then where? I trailed off, my head foggy. My hotel. I turned to look at her. You can just take me home. She glanced at me, her expression gentle. Cassie, she said softly. I'm going back tomorrow afternoon. How about I make sure you're okay before I leave? Do you think you can let me do that? I stared at her. Her voice was so gentle, so steady. I nodded. Okay, I whispered. She kept driving. We pulled into the hotel parking garage. She helped me out of the car, keeping a hand on my arm as we walked to the elevator. I remember the ride up, the hallway, her unlocking the door. I remember sitting on the edge of the bed. She brought me water. Drink this, she said. I took a sip, and then my stomach lurched. Oh no, I barely made it to the bathroom. I don't remember much after that. Just flashes. Mirable holding my hair back. Her voice, soft and steady. It's okay. You're okay. Her helping me rinse my mouth. Her handing me a t-shirt. Me, crying, saying things I shouldn't have said. And then, nothing. When I woke up, sunlight was streaming through the windows. My head was pounding. My mouth tasted awful. I blinked, disoriented. This wasn't my room. I sat up slowly, and the world spun. I looked down. I was wearing an oversized black t-shirt that definitely wasn't mine. My clothes were gone. Panic surged through me. Where am I? What happened? I heard the sound of water running. A moment later, the bathroom door opened, and Mirable walked out. She was wearing fitted jeans and a simple white t-shirt. Her hair was damp, like she'd just showered. She looked impossibly beautiful, and I looked like I'd been hit by a truck. She saw me and stopped. "You're up," she said. I stared at her, my brain scrambling. "Good morning," I croaked. A small smile tugged at her lips. "Good morning." I pulled the blanket up, suddenly very aware of how little I was wearing. Where are my clothes?" I asked. She gestured to the sofa. "Washed, dried and folded." I looked over. Sure enough, my clothes were neatly stacked. "How am I wearing your shirt?" She leaned against the wall, crossing her arms. "You threw up all over yourself last night, and on me. I had to change you into something clean." My face went hot. "You didn't have to take off everything. Everything was affected," she said simply. "And you picked that shirt yourself." I blinked. "I did." "You did. You refused to wear anything else." I covered my face with my hands. "Oh my God." She was quiet for a moment, then she walked over and sat on the edge of the bed. Not too close, respectful. "Cassie," she said gently, "why were you drinking?" I didn't answer. She just waited, patient, listening. The silence stretched. Finally, she asked, "Why did you break up with Nick?" My head snapped up. "How did you know that?" She held my gaze, her expression calm. "You told me, last night." My stomach dropped. "What else did I tell you?" I whispered. She smiled, soft, almost sad. "A lot more." I felt like I was going to be sick again. I covered my face. "Oh my God, please tell me I didn't say anything stupid, please." "Cassie." Her voice was gentle. "You need to eat something, drink water, then I'll tell you one more thing. Deal?" I peeked at her through my fingers. "Where did you sleep?" She held my gaze and nodded toward the other side of the bed. My eyes widened. We shared a bed. You said you'd sleep on the floor if I took the sofa," she said. "I couldn't let you do that." I covered my face again, groaning. "Now you know all my secrets," I mumbled into my hands. She let out a quiet laugh. "Not all, but the ones I know seem to have a lot to do with me." I looked up at her. She was watching me, her expression unreadable. "Please," I whispered. "Please just tell me. Why did I say Nick and I broke up?" She blinked. Then she stood, walked over to the sofa, and sat down. She looked at me for a long moment, and then she said it. "Me." I froze. "You said," she continued, her voice soft, "that you're in love with me, and that you're not into women, but you're into me." I wanted to disappear. I wanted the earth to open up and swallow me whole. I lay back down and pulled the duvet over my head. "I'm not coming out," I said, my voice muffled. "Ever." "Cassie." "I'm sorry," I said, my voice breaking. "I was drunk. I didn't mean it. It's not true." "Cassie." Her voice was firmer now. "Come out." I didn't move. I heard her footsteps. The bed dipped as she sat down next to me. She gently pulled the duvet away from my face. I squeezed my eyes shut. "Sit up," she said softly. I didn't want to, but slowly, I did. She reached out and took both my hands in hers. I looked down at them, at the way her fingers wrapped around mine. Warm, steady, real. "Cassie," she said gently. "Look at me." I forced myself to meet her eyes. "You're not in love with me," she said. The words hit me like a punch to the chest. "You're just curious," she continued. "You heard from Tasha that I'm into women, and you're probably curious about what it would feel like. That's all this is." I stared at her. "It's not real," she said, her voice impossibly gentle. "So stop overthinking it." I wanted to scream. "It is real, it's so real it's tearing me apart," but I couldn't say it. So I just nodded. She released my hands and stood. "So," she said, her tone shifting, lighter now, "you never texted me, until you were drunk." I looked down, my face burning. "I'm sorry." "Don't be." She walked over to her bag. "Can I save your number? So I actually know who's texting me next time." "Yes," I whispered. She pulled out her phone, typed something, and slipped it back into her bag. "I'm going to order you breakfast," she said. "And then I have to meet someone before I head back to Boston." Boston. She lived in Boston, 2 hours from here by train. "Meeting your girlfriend?" I asked before I could stop myself. She froze. Her back was to me. Slowly, she turned around. Her expression was unreadable. She didn't answer. "Instead," she asked, "will you wait for me to get back? So I can drop you off before I leave?" I nodded. She smiled. Small. Sad. "Good." She grabbed her coat and keys. And then she left. I sat there on the bed, staring at the door. My hands were still tingling from where she'd held them. My chest ached. She'd told me it wasn't real, that I was just curious. But she was wrong. I wasn't curious. I was in love with her, and I had no idea what to do about it. After Mira left, I just sat there on the bed for a long time. The room felt too big, too quiet. I looked at the sofa where my clothes were folded, at the empty coffee cup on the nightstand, at the bathroom where she'd held my hair back while I threw up. I covered my face with my hands. "You're not in love with me. You're just curious." She'd said it so gently, like she was trying to protect me from myself. But she didn't understand. I wasn't confused. I was heartbroken. I forced myself to get up. I walked to the bathroom and caught sight of myself in the mirror. I looked like a disaster. My hair was messy, my face pale, my eyes red and swollen. I turned on the shower and stood under the hot water for a long time, letting it wash away the remnants of last night, but it couldn't wash away the shame, or the longing. When I came out, wrapped in a towel, there was a knock at the door. I froze. Mira? But no. She had a key. I walked to the door carefully and opened it a crack. A hotel staff member stood there with a tray. "Breakfast delivery for Miss Voss," he said politely. I blinked. "Oh, thank you." He handed me the tray, and I closed the door. I set it down on the small table by the window. There was coffee, toast, eggs, fresh fruit, orange juice. She'd ordered this for me before she left. I sat down, staring at the food, my throat tight. Even when she wasn't here, she was taking care of me. I picked up the coffee and took a sip. It was perfect. My phone buzzed. I looked down. "Tasha. Hey, feeling a little better today. How are you? You didn't come around yesterday." I stared at the message. Yesterday? When Mira had been here? When everything had happened? Me, I'm okay. Just had a lot on my mind. How are you feeling, Tasha? Like I got hit by a truck. But better than yesterday. Mira stopped by this morning before her meeting. Brought me soup and medicine. She's actually kind of sweet when I'm dying, lol. My chest tightened. She'd gone to check on Tasha this morning, after staying up with me all night. Tasha. She's heading back to Boston this afternoon. Me. That's good she came to check on you. Tasha. Yeah. She said she had a busy night but wanted to make sure I was okay before she left. A busy night. Me. I was her busy night. Tasha. Anyway, rest up. I'll call you when I'm human again. Me. Okay. Feel better. I put my phone down and stared out the window at the city. I got dressed in my own clothes. They smelled faintly of hotel detergent, clean and fresh. I sat on the edge of the bed, my hands folded in my lap, and waited. The minutes crawled by. I checked my phone. 11:30. She'd said she'd be back early afternoon. I tried to distract myself. I scrolled through social media, answered a few emails, stared at the wall, but mostly, I just waited. At 1:15, I heard the sound of a key in the door. My heart leapt into my throat. The door opened, and Mira walked in. She looked the same as when she'd left. Jeans, black sweater, long coat, hair down. But there was something different in her expression when she saw me. Relief, maybe. "Hi," she said softly, closing the door behind her. "Hi," I said. She set her bag down and looked at me. "You ate?" I nodded. "Thank you for ordering it." "Of course." She walked over to the table, picked up her laptop bag. "How's your head?" "Better." "Good." We stood there in awkward silence for a moment. Then she said, "I have to check out. Are you ready to go?" I nodded. She grabbed her things and I grabbed my jacket. We didn't say anything as we left the room. The car ride back to my apartment was quiet. Mira drove with the same calm focus she always had. One hand on the wheel, the other resting on the center console. I sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window, trying to find the courage to speak. Finally I did. "Can I ask you something?" She glanced at me. "Of course." "How long have you been with your girlfriend?" Her jaw tightened. "Just slightly." "A while," she said. That wasn't an answer. Do you see her often?" "When we can," Mira said, her tone careful. "She travels a lot for work." I nodded, my chest aching. "Does she live in Boston?" "No." "Where does she live?" Mira was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "It's complicated, Cassie." I looked at her. "What does that mean?" She didn't answer. I turned back to the window, biting my lip. She didn't want to talk about it, which meant it was serious, which meant I really didn't have a chance. We drove in silence for a while. Then Mira reached over and turned on the music, something soft, instrumental, sad and beautiful. I closed my eyes and let it wash over me. "Does your head still hurt?" she asked quietly. "A little." She reached into the center console and pulled out a bottle of water. "Drink this, you're probably still dehydrated." I took it, unscrewing the cap and taking a sip. "Thank you," I said, "for everything. For picking me up, for letting me stay." She glanced at me. "You don't have to thank me." "I do," I said. "You didn't have to do any of that." "I wanted to," she said simply. I looked at her. She kept her eyes on the road, but her hand, resting on the console, was only inches from mine. I wanted to reach out, to touch her, to close the distance, but I didn't. We pulled up in front of my apartment building around 2:30. Mira put the car in park but didn't turn off the engine. I unbuckled my seatbelt slowly, not wanting to leave. "Cassie," she said. I looked at her. Her dark eyes were steady, unreadable. "Text me," she said. "Not just when you're drunk." I felt my face flush. "I will. I mean it." "Okay." She reached out then and gently brushed a strand of hair behind my ear. Her fingers barely grazed my skin, but I felt it everywhere. "Take care of yourself," she said softly. I nodded, not trusting my voice. I got out of the car, closed the door, and walked toward my building. At the entrance, I turned back. She was still there, watching me. I lifted my hand in a small wave. She nodded, and then she drove away. I stood there on the sidewalk, watching her car disappear around the corner, and I felt like I'd just lost something I never even had. I walked up to my apartment, unlocked the door, and stepped inside. The silence was deafening. I dropped my bag on the floor and sank onto the couch. My phone buzzed. I pulled it out. It was Nick. "Nick, I came by earlier. You weren't home. I left some of your stuff by the door." I looked toward the door. Sure enough, there was a small box sitting there. Things I'd left at his place over the years. I stared at it. It was real. We were really over. I put my phone down and buried my face in my hands. An hour later, Tasha called. I almost didn't answer, but I knew I had to. "Hey," I said, trying to sound normal. "Hey, you sound weird. Are you okay?" "I'm fine." "You're lying. What's wrong?" I took a breath. "Nick and I broke up." Silence. "What?" Tasha's voice went up an octave. "When? Why didn't you tell me?" "A few days ago. I couldn't talk about it." "Cassie." Her voice softened. "What happened?" I closed my eyes. I wasn't happy. It wasn't fair to him. "Did he do something?" "No, he was perfect. That was the problem." Tasha was quiet for a moment. "Do you want me to come over? You're sick." "I'm feeling better. I'm okay, Tash. I promise. I just need some time." She sighed. "Okay, but if you need me, call, anytime." "I will, thank you." We hung up, and I sat there in the silence, alone. The next few days were torture. I went to class. I graded papers. I avoided places where I might run into Nick. Tasha checked on me constantly. I told her I was fine. I wasn't. Every night I stared at my phone, at Mira's contact, at the words she'd said. "Text me, not just when you're drunk." But I didn't know what to say. 3 days passed. 4. On the 5th day, I couldn't take it anymore. It was a Thursday evening. I was sitting on my couch, pretending to grade papers, when I finally gave in. I opened her contact. My hands were shaking as I typed. "Me. Hi, how are you?" I hit send before I could stop myself. Then I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. 1 minute passed. 2, 5, 10, nothing. I set my phone down, feeling stupid. She was busy. She had a life, a girlfriend. Why would she? My phone buzzed. I grabbed it. "Mira, I'm good. You?" Relief flooded through me. "Me. I'm okay. Just working." "Mira, still grading papers?" "Me, always." "Mira, you work too hard." I smiled despite myself. "Me, says the woman who works on weekends." "Mira, fair point." There was a pause. "Mira, how are you really doing?" My throat tightened. "Me, better. Some days are harder than others." "Mira, that's normal." "Me, yeah." Another pause. "Mira, have you talked to him?" She meant Nick. "Me, no. It's over. It was the right thing to do." "Mira, doesn't make it easier." "Me, no, it doesn't." "Mira, you'll be okay, Cassie." I stared at the screen, tears pricking my eyes. "Me, thank you." "Mira, get some rest. Good night." "Me, good night." Over the next 2 weeks, I texted her sporadically. Small things, safe things, and she always replied, but never immediately. Sometimes it took an hour, sometimes 3. Once it took almost a full day, and every time, I'd spiral. "She's busy. She has a girlfriend. She doesn't think about you the way you think about her." One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I'd texted her that morning. Me. How's your week going? It was now almost 9 p.m. No response. I texted again. Me. You're always so busy, you hardly reply, but you ask me to text. I regretted it immediately. I sounded needy, desperate, but 5 minutes later my phone buzzed. Mira. I will never ignore your message, Cassie. My heart stopped. Mira. I might not be with my phone when you text, but once I have my phone I will always reply to every single one of your texts. I stared at the screen, my chest tight. Me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Mira. Don't apologize. I'm the one who should be sorry. Work has been insane. But you're right. I asked you to text, and I meant it. Me. Okay. Mira. I mean it, Cassie. I believed her. After that, I started paying attention. I noticed a pattern. Mira was usually free around 10 p.m. That's when her replies came fastest, when the conversation flowed. So one night, 2 weeks later, I got bold. It was a Friday, 10:03 p.m. I texted her. Mira. Hi. Me. You're home. Mira. Just got in. Long day. Me. You work too hard. Mira. You've said that before. Me. Because it's true. Mira. What are you doing? Me. Lying in bed, pretending to read. Mira. Pretending? Me. I can't focus. Mira. Why not? I hesitated. Then I typed it. Me. I keep thinking about you. I held my breath. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Mira. Cassie. Me. I know. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. Mira. Don't apologize. Me. I want to see you again. I hit send, and then I waited. 1 minute, 2, 5, 10. Nothing. My stomach dropped. I'd pushed too far. I typed quickly. Me. I'm sorry. Don't take it the wrong way. I remember you said it's not real. I just miss your face. That's all. I felt sick. 15 minutes passed. 20. I was about to put my phone down when it finally buzzed. Mira. My mom's birthday is next week. I blinked. Mira. I'm sure Tasha will invite you. My heart started racing. Mira. I have something important at work that day. I wasn't planning to go. I felt my hope deflate. But then, Mira. But I'll be there. I sat up in bed. Mira. You should come. I stared at the screen, my hands shaking. Me. Okay. Mira. Good. Mira. Good night, Cassie. Me. Good night. I lay back in bed, staring at the ceiling, my heart pounding. She was canceling work to be there, because I wanted to see her. But now I had a new problem. Would Tasha even invite me? 3 days later, Tasha called. Hey, so my mom's birthday is this weekend. Big family thing. Please come with me? I tried not to sound too eager. Are you sure? I don't want to intrude on family time. Cassie, my mom loves you, and honestly, I need backup. My relatives are overwhelming. Please come. I smiled. Okay, I'll come. Yes, I'm buying our flight tickets now. We'll leave Friday afternoon. All right. We hung up, and I sat there staring at my phone. I was going to see her again. In 3 days. And breathe. That's all for part 2, my love. Go refill your heart, because you're going to need it for the next one. I'll be right here when you come back. Until then, I'm still your one and only virtual girlfriend, and I get jealous easily. Thought I should let you know.